Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Adam Burke from BangTheBook.com. We're going to do our Wednesday weekend look-ahead video, talking about a handful of spots in the NBA, NHL, and college basketball, taking a look at the round of bowl games coming up on Saturday, and then also Week 15 in the NFL. So, happy to be with you once again here, and hopefully this video goes a little bit better than yesterday's. 0-3 on our Tuesday 3-pack picks to start things off. On the bright side, hey, you know what? There's only one way to go, and that's up, and we'll look to do that on our Thursday 3-pack video coming up here tomorrow. As far as this one goes, like I said, I got a handful of spots to look at, and we'll go ahead and begin in the NBA, where on Saturday, the Utah Jazz take on the Orlando Magic. This game will be played in Mexico City. This will be the second straight game for Orlando in Mexico City. They take on the Chicago Bulls on Thursday night. For the Utah Jazz, it will be their one and only game playing in Mexico City. Now, of course, for those that don't know, or maybe those that don't remember from the NFL games that were out there, Mexico City, very high in elevation, about 7,400 feet above sea level. Obviously, that's a big deal for Orlando, and of course, Chicago on Thursday night as well. For Utah, yes, they play in elevation, and you would think that would give them a little bit of an advantage here in this spot, but also Salt Lake City is about 4,200 feet above sea level. So we're talking about a significant difference here between Mexico City and Salt Lake City. So you kind of wonder, how that spot will set up on Saturday for both of those teams. For Utah, obviously more accustomed to playing in altitude. For Orlando, second game there in Mexico City, maybe more familiarity with the area, the shooting backdrop, things of that sort. Utah will be favored in this game, there's no question about that. But it'll be interesting to see how the market reacts to the fact that Orlando is playing a second game there, and also how the market reacts to the idea that Utah just far more accustomed to playing in altitude. A more obvious and more cut and dry situational spot here for this weekend in the NBA comes your way on Sunday. The Toronto Raptors playing a fourth road game in 6 days as they make a stop in Denver to take on the Nuggets. Raptors heading back home after this one, where they'll take on the Indiana Pacers, but they'll have 2 days off before they do that. So, tough situational spot here to be sure for the Raptors coming up on Sunday in Denver, playing a fourth road game in 6 nights. Over in the NHL, we've been talking on Tuesdays on our Bang the Book Radio segments with Brian Blessing about the dad's trip and the betting angles that present themselves when you talk about the fathers being on the road trip with their sons. Well, for the Toronto Maple Leafs here this week, their mothers are on the road trip. They won last night in Carolina. The mothers had a watch party in Toronto, then chartered a plane down to the Sunshine State, where the Maple Leafs will take on the Tampa Bay Lightning on Thursday night. Big game for both teams, big spot for Toronto to be sure. These are the two best teams here in the Atlantic Division. But what I'm looking at is Saturday's game. The Toronto Maple Leafs take on the Florida Panthers. If they lose that game on Thursday night against Tampa Bay, you can bet that they do not want to go 0-2 in front of their moms or the women who basically raise them like mothers that I'm sure are on the trip as well. So they will want that game on Saturday night very, very badly. They will put everything into that game if they lose on Thursday night. So I'm looking at possibly my biggest NHL play of the season here, my favorite NHL play of the season. Toronto on Saturday night against Florida. If Toronto loses to Tampa Bay here on Thursday night, could very well be the case. Toronto will be an underdog in that game on Thursday. Will be a road favorite on Saturday. Hoping somewhere in the minus 130, minus 135 range. Anything lower than that, I'm absolutely thrilled with. But Toronto, if this spot sets up on Saturday, if they lose on Thursday night, Toronto would be a big play coming up here on Saturday with their moms on the trip. It's been a very profitable angle. Dads or moms, doesn't really matter. It's been a good angle, and you would think could even be a little bit of a stronger angle when it comes to the moms being there. So I do like Toronto on Saturday night regardless. But if they lose Thursday night, definitely in a very good spot there to take down 2 points against the Florida Panthers. Sunday in the NHL, and a very strange spot here for both of these teams, Arizona and Carolina. This game will be played at 1 o'clock Eastern Time in Raleigh. Fourth game in 5 days for both of these teams. The key difference about this, though, is that Carolina will have played 3 of the 4 games at home, whereas Arizona playing all 4 of them on the road. So Arizona in a very, very bad spot here coming up on Sunday against the Carolina Hurricanes. Could be a big price that you have to lay with Carolina, and that's a little bit scary with how they've played this year and with how their goaltending has been pretty suspect. But if you're looking for a game on Sunday in the NHL, Carolina probably going to be one that fits the bill because of that situational spot. We transition over to the college basketball side of things here now, where it's been a pretty light week in the college basketball world. A lot of schools doing finals week, and coaches want their players to be eligible and all that type of thing. But we really step it up on Saturday. Big time college basketball slate on Saturday. Villanova off the loss to Penn last night. They'll be at Fog Allen Fieldhouse to take on Kansas. You've got Tennessee and Memphis in a rivalry game there in the Volunteer State. Butler and Indiana meeting in Indianapolis at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Very heated rivalry there. A very basketball-rich state. Should have a lot of interest in that game, and certainly a big turnout for that one as well. You got the first true road game for Arizona State here on Saturday. They'll take on Georgia. Long way away from Tempe for the Sun Devils as they're down there in Athens. And by the way, the Sun Devils face Vanderbilt on Monday. So quick turnaround, playing in areas you're not really accustomed to. Could be a tough spot for Arizona State, whether that comes on Saturday or on Monday when they take on Vanderbilt. But Saturday's game, as I mentioned, against Georgia. Gonzaga coming all the way east to Chapel Hill. They'll go to the Dean Dome and take on North Carolina. Big time game there between two blue blood programs. You got a little brother, big brother game. It's one of my favorite spots here, I think, on Saturday. Auburn in UAB to take on Alabama Birmingham. Tigers going out to Birmingham to take on the Blazers. Gotta figure UAB very, very fired up for that game. Should be a good crowd there in Birmingham. UAB could be the side in that one. Auburn, a top 10 team right now, but obviously going to be price dependent. Have to see what that line looks like. Then finally, to wrap up Saturday in college basketball, LSU and St. Mary's, neutral site game at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. So a lot of spots coming up here on Saturday. One thing I will tell you is that when you get these blue blood games, a lot of fun, always a lot of interest, and also from a Selection Sunday standpoint, these games do mean a lot. But when you get a lot of marquee matchups like this, and a lot of marquee games here on Saturday, a lot of value in the low and mid-major conferences. So dig deep for those games. Try to find some of those. I think those will be your meal ticket on Saturday, more so than these big-time matchups. All right, so let's start the college football bowl games here for Saturday, December 15th. We'll start with the New Mexico Bowl because that's the first one by rotation order. That's North Texas taking on Utah State. North Texas money hitting the board for this one. We opened 10. We're down to 8 right now. Matt Wells, of course, taking the job with Texas Tech. Been a big part of the game planning here, but it will be Frank Mailey's team coming up here on Saturday. We'll see how Utah State responds because Mailey not getting the head coaching job, may not even be part of the new staff with head coach Gary Anderson. Interim head coaches are a very intriguing thing. I've got a big article up over at BangTheBook.com about them. They are 33-34 straight up, 32-34-1 against the spread, and 35-30-2 to the under. So in those 67 games dating back to the 03-04 bowl season, not a big edge on the money line or against the spread by just blindly betting it or anything like that. Maybe a slight tilt towards the under, but again, all of these on a case-by-case basis. For Utah State, maybe this isn't the spot that they wanted to be in. Maybe we're hoping to get that New Year's 6 bowl game. They don't get there. For North Texas, a little bit of a disappointing season for them. Didn't even play for the Conference USA title. I think that they may be the more motivated team here, but North Texas didn't beat a bowl-eligible team this year, so they're really stepping up in class a little bit here themselves. The Cure Bowl between Tulane and Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns in their 6th bowl game, first time not playing in the New Orleans Bowl. They'll be in Orlando here at Camping World Stadium for the Cure Bowl. This line opened 3.5 and really hasn't moved. Not a whole lot of interest in this game. The odds makers apparently setting a good number for this one. Haven't seen any movement. We will see some, obviously, and my guess would be on the Tulane side with their modified spread option attack. But to this point in time, haven't seen any movement on the Cure Bowl. The Las Vegas Bowl has seen some movement, but it's kind of just yo-yoed back and forth a little bit here. The game opened 3.5 with Fresno State favored. N'Keal Harry announced he was sitting out the bowl game, Arizona State's top wide receiver. With him sitting out, the line jumped to 4.5. Then we saw some buyback down to 4. Now it's back up to 4.5 at a lot of places out there. Some of the sharper offshore books, though, still on the 4. So looks like we may have a little bit of a Sharp versus Public split forming for this game, with Sharp guys looking to take Arizona State, who has played a tougher schedule, 35 spots tougher per Sagarin, and the Public coming in on Fresno State. So could be a Sharp versus Public split game there. Definitely something you want to keep an eye on for Saturday. The Camellia Bowl between Eastern Michigan and Georgia Southern. Both the Eagles here in this one, so I'll try not to screw that up. But the money coming in on Georgia Southern for this one, up from a pick'em to a 2.5-point favorite. This is a straight fade of the Mid-American Conference. We're seeing that in this game. We're seeing that in the Boca Raton Bowl. We're starting to see that now in the Frisco Bowl and also the Bahamas Bowl. And the teams that are getting bet against there, Eastern Michigan, Northern Illinois, Ohio, and then Toledo. So the MAC has not fared well in bowl games, 14-21 last 35 against the spread. We're seeing money come in against the MAC. This happens, and you will see conference fades across the board. Apparently seeing one here a little bit. Eastern Michigan, of course, facing that Georgia Southern option. And to be fair, you talk about what Eastern Michigan played during the season. They did play Army, and they held Army to 4 yards per carry. So they have seen an option attack. But again, the MAC, not much success in the bowl season. We're seeing that play out here in the betting odds. One more game for Saturday in college football. That is Middle Tennessee and Appalachian State. That is the New Orleans Bowl. Middle Tennessee, the preferred side here so far, down from 7, to 6.5, and some places even showing 6 now. You've got head coach Rick Stockstill, his son Brent Stockstill. They're together for the last time. The Stockstills have been together, it seems, since 2005. But Brent has been there for 6 years. A lot of injuries. The Blue Raiders very upset to lose the Conference USA Championship game to UAB. So they're taking money here against the Appalachian State team with an interim head coach. Scott Satterfield takes the job at Louisville. So you've got the Mountaineers with an interim. Mountaineers won the Sun Belt, already have 10 wins. Maybe they're a little bit happy with how things have already gone this season. Whereas for Middle Tennessee State, some unfinished business and a quest to get that last win for the Stockstill family. I think this line continues to come down. I would expect this number to close 5.5, may even close as low as 5 out there. But I do think Middle Tennessee State continues to take the money, both Sharp and Public at this point. Everyone knows Appalachian State's a good team, hung right with Penn State early in the year. Good defense, but a lot of emotional angles here may end up pushing Public bettors to the Middle Tennessee side as well. So we'll transition over to the NFL side of things here. Of course, the best NFL game for Week 15, the Thursday nighter between the Chargers and the Chiefs. But Saturday, we've got 2 games coming up. The Texans take on the Jets. The Browns take on the Broncos. In that Texans-Jets game, we opened about 7 out there in the marketplace. Now we're down to 6. Jets taking some money early on. This may be more of a fade of the Texans than a buy of the Jets. The Jets did step up last week, beat Buffalo, and the Bills were favored for the first time all year. But you kind of wonder if the Jets can do that 2 weeks in a row. Maybe Sam Darnold being back helps. But for Houston, a team that's overachieved, I think in a lot of people's minds, very pedestrian statistical profile, well on the plus side in turnover margin. I think it's a fade of the Texans here. I don't think we go any lower than 6, though, because I don't think we'll have that much Jets investment. But you never know here with the short week, the turnaround, the quick travel, and then also Houston with a little bit of a bubble burst situation after losing that game to the Colts last week. As far as the other Saturday game goes, Browns and Broncos, not much movement on this one. We've been 3 or 3.5 throughout the week. A lot of juice movement on this game. No significant movement to the side, just to move juice around. -115 to -110, -120 to -115, things of that sort. Some places have the Browns juiced. Some places have the Broncos juiced. Looks like 3 may be the working number for now. But I would anticipate we see 2.5 once we get to the weekend. Browns will be a trendy Public dog. And I don't know how many people are going to be excited to back the Broncos here on the sharp side after they really laid a giant egg last week in a huge spot for them against the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm guessing we see 2.5 on this game. But, of course, that kind of varies from book to book. Raiders and Bengals as we transition over to Sunday here. Initially, this looked like a pretty tough line, but we're seeing Raiders money hit the board. Open 3, down to 2.5, just about market wide. Raiders getting some love. They're playing hard. They're off a big win over Pittsburgh. The Bengals stayed within the number the whole time against the Chargers last week, but that was probably more about the Chargers looking ahead to Kansas City than it was about the Bengals. Jeff Driscoll, Joe Mixon's been hurt. No AJ Green. Seeing Oakland come down to 2.5, not a big surprise here. And I don't think you'll see a rush to get buyback on the Bengals either. So we're down to 2.5 with this one. And that may very well be where that line closes. How about we go to the Cowboys and Colts here? 2 play-on teams as far as I'm concerned. This number 2.5 with extra juice on Indianapolis. 3 with extra juice on Dallas. All depends on where you look. Not a ton of movement for this game either. I think this is a number that works for the odds makers. I think you'll have public bettors split on this game. Right now it doesn't look like maybe the Cowboys a little bit of the preferred public side. Maybe Indianapolis the sharp side. Frank Reich game planning for this Dallas defense the last couple of years while being part of the Eagles staff. Maybe that's a betting angle for you to consider here. But I think these are 2 play-on teams right now. When you get play-on teams, you generally get a split out there in the market. Looks like that may be the case here with this game. I would guess Indy closes 3 pretty much market wide, but the juice could vary on that one. The Lions and the Bills. Lions with a big win in Arizona last week. Now they go back out on the road again to take on Buffalo. This number opened pick'em, but now Buffalo a 2.5-point favorite. Keep in mind we reached a point of resistance at 2.5, didn't go up to 3. Maybe that tells us about the strength of the sharp position here for this one. I'm not really sure where this game ends up, to be totally honest with you. The Lions have been a decent underdog team this year. The Bills, favored for the first time last week, laid a giant egg, favored again this week. Not sure where this line goes. Not sure I'm going to be too involved in this game overall. Packers and Bears. This should be a good one here. This number opened 6.5 with Chicago a home favorite. Came down to as low as 5.5. Now back up to 6 for the most part in the marketplace. The Packers, good win last week over the Falcons. Nice to see them win without Mike McCarthy. But also, not the most impressive of offensive performances. They were up 34-7 after 3 quarters. Did kind of pack it away. But only 300 total yards for the Packers there. Only about 5 yards per play. Aaron Rodgers sacked 4 times. The question here in this game is how long can the Bears keep playing at a high level? Big win over the Rams last week. Tough division game here this week. Took the Giants to overtime with Chase Daniel on the road. Picked up that short week win with Chase Daniel on Thanksgiving. How long can the Bears keep doing this? I think that may dictate what happens with this line, what the overriding sentiment is out there in the marketplace on how sustainable Chicago playing at a high level actually is. Titans and Giants. Giants 2.5-point favorite with extra juice out there in the marketplace. I don't know what's going to happen with this line either because the Titans one week looked pretty good. The Titans the next week looked terrible. The Giants have been a very popular, very trendy team the last couple of weeks, including showing up in the Super Contest top 5 consensus. They've been a popular team. Will that continue? I don't know. Giants -3 would not surprise me. This game hanging 2.5 would not surprise me. You wonder how much sharp investment you get from the Titans. That will dictate what happens to this line. Redskins and Jaguars. What a mess this game is. Total of 36 on this game. Lowest total for an NFL game since week 17 of the 2012 season. That's what happens when you get Josh Johnson against Cody Kessler. We saw this one open 7 in that type of range. Jaguars up to 7.5 at some places. And I'll take a look at the screen here. Most of the 7.5s are gone. We're back to 7, pretty much market wide. And, who wants to lay 7 with Jacksonville right now? They shut out the Colts, but they don't score. They get blown out by the Titans on Thursday night. What are we going to get from this Jaguars offense? Probably not much. If they pitch a shutout, though, they don't need much to cover. And against Josh Johnson, holding the Redskins to single digits doesn't seem like that hard of a task. But man, this is a tough game. Tough side both ways. And the total is tough too because we're talking about a total we haven't seen since the 2012 season. A lot of sharp bettors will play against those outliers, will take the over here. They won't love it, but they will look to, go against an outlier number. Public, I don't think, is going to do it. So maybe just an altogether stay away game. But that totals note, 36. Lowest total since week 17 of the 2012 season. Very intriguing there. Seahawks and Niners. The Seahawks with a big win on Monday Night Football. Now a short week. Go play the San Francisco 49ers, who played a tremendous game against the Broncos. Tremendous first half, anyway, against the Broncos there. A lot of Niners money this week. From 6.5 to as low as 4.5 out there in the marketplace now. Probably going to settle around 5 for this game, at least for the time being. We could see San Francisco +4. I think if that's the case, we're going to see some people bet the Seahawks just out of principle. The public will like the Seahawks in this spot. So interesting to watch this one. It's going to sit in that dead zone between 4 and 6, I think, for the majority of the week. If we get some significant sharp involvement, I would guess it comes on San Francisco. I would guess this number closes 4 at that point. But we're probably good at 4.5 or 5 for this game. But interesting to note that the 49ers have taken the early money. Patriots and Steelers here. I think both of these quarterbacks are hurt. We know Ben Roethlisberger's hurt with the rib injury. I think Tom Brady's knee is more than just his knee brace moving, as he told the media on Monday. Patriots 1.5 point favorite, depending on where you look. This number hasn't moved a whole lot since it did open. It opened a day later, but I'm kind of curious to see what happens with this one, because the Steelers right now have no running game without James Conner. The Patriots, anytime they're a favorite of less than 3, they're going to take money. What will the sharp side be? I don't know about this game, but it will be the most heavily bet public game on the card on Sunday. And I have to think Patriots anything below a field goal, the public is just going to be tripping over themselves to bet. And quite frankly, you can't blame them with how proficient Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have been against the spread throughout their careers. Eagles and Rams, the last one here to look at for this Wednesday weekend look ahead. This game's taken on a little bit of a different face now. Rams were a 9.5 point favorite. Then we find out that Carson Wentz not going to play for Philadelphia. It will be the Nick Foles show on the road in LA. And, the Rams right now just not capable of blowing anybody out. So I think we would have seen some people take a shot with the Eagles. And I think now that we see Nick Foles, we'll see even more people look to take a shot with the Eagles. It has not been Carson Wentz's fault this year, but there's an ultimatum hanging over this team that if they lose this game, Carson Wentz won't play the last 2 weeks. And Nick Foles is the guy that just won you the Super Bowl. So maybe the Eagles rally a little bit in that spot here this weekend. I think we do see some money come in on them. Maybe this number closes 10, 9.5, something like that. But the Rams really not mobilized to blow out too many teams here. So, it's going to be a tough thing for them to blow out Philadelphia. But, again, hard to take the Eagles as well. So Sunday Night Football will get a lot of activity, to say the least. But one note I do want to give you here to wrap up this Wednesday weekend look-ahead video is that teams coming off of overtime games in the NFL, since the start of the 2015 season, coming off an overtime game, 43-73 against the spread. If that team lost in overtime the previous week, 18-35 against the spread. So that would apply to the Eagles this weekend here against the Rams, and then also the Baltimore Ravens, who are laying more than a touchdown against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So fading teams in the NFL coming off of overtime games has been a very profitable betting angle since the start of the 2015 season. Again, 43-73 against the spread for teams coming off of an overtime game. We got a lot of great stuff going on over at BangTheBook.com. Make sure you check it out. My updated college football power ratings were fixed up today. We'll have NFL power ratings from Danny Vorgs coming tonight or tomorrow. Situational betting articles across the NBA, NHL, and college basketball. We got daily picks and tips for NBA, college hoops, soccer previews, a lot of great college football and NFL content, free pick contests, sportsbook reviews, and of course, all the archive versions and segments of Bang the Book Radio. Lots of great stuff. Go check it out. Very proud of what we've got going on over there. That's why we call ourselves your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. I'll be back tomorrow with a Thursday 3-pack video. Make sure you check out Brian Blessing's 2 videos here on our YouTube page while you're here, and also our Spreaker segments on YouTube now for your listening pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to this Wednesday weekend look ahead, and I'm Adam Burke from BangTheBook.com.